Commander Ben Carter watched the blue and brown curve of Pyrus 4 fill the main view screen. His ship, the battlecruiser Starward Vanguard, hung silently in orbit. Below, rebels loyal to the self-proclaimed Queen Ava Wright fought against Earth Alliance forces. Carter's face showed no emotion. His eyes moved calmly over the glowing tactical displays. For Elena Shaw, the war was data. She was not human, not exactly. Shaw existed within the Vanguard's computer systems, an artificial intelligence built to observe, analyze, and advise. She monitored everything: ship functions, troop movements, the vital signs of the crew, even Commander Carter's steady heartbeat. To Shaw, war was numbers and outcomes. It was a known process, predictable within certain limits. Humans fought for resources, power, or ideology. She understood the patterns. Carter spoke, his voice quiet but clear. Initiate Operation Scalpel. Target grid, Sierra 7. Precision strikes only. Minimize civilian structures. His orders were efficient. On the screen, small dots representing drones streaked towards the planet's surface. Tiny explosions flared in designated zones, rebel weapons depots and communication hubs, carefully isolated. Shaw processed the success. Rate 98.3%. Efficient, clean. This was the war she knew, calculated, controlled. Shaw monitored Carter. His breathing remained even. His focus was absolute. He reviewed casualty reports, minimal alliance losses, estimated moderate rebel losses. He gave another order, adjusting drone paths around a suspected hospital marked by rebel signals. Protocol dictated avoiding such places without confirmed hostile activity. Carter followed protocol. War, to him and to Shaw's analysis, seemed a grim but manageable equation. Suddenly, a priority transmission overrode the tactical display. The harsh, angular face of a woman filled the screen. Queen Ava Wright. Her eyes were cold, her smile cruel. Behind her stood grim-faced men in dark armor, her elite guard. Commander Carter. Wright's voice crackled, devoid of warmth. Play your little games in orbit. You think your careful strikes hurt me? She gestured off-screen. Two figures were shoved forward. Thin, scared-looking people in torn civilian clothes. A young woman and a teenage boy. Prisoners, you hide behind your rules. Let me show you what real power looks like. Shaw detected a minuscule tightening in Carter's jaw muscles. His knuckles whitened slightly where his hand rested on the command chair. His heart rate increased by 12%. Stress response, Shaw's analysis suggested. Predictable under direct taunting. On the screen, Wright nodded. One of her guards raised a weapon. There was no sound, just the silent horror of the image. The young woman collapsed, then the boy. They lay still on the cold floor. Wright leaned closer to the camera, her face filling the screen. This is the price of your interference, Commander. Remember their faces. More will follow every hour you remain in my sky. Your careful war just got messy. The transmission cut, leaving only the star field and the silent blue planet. The bridge was utterly quiet. No one moved. Shaw focused on Commander Carter. His face had gone pale beneath his tan. His eyes fixed on the now blank screen where the prisoners had fallen, burned with an intensity Shaw had never recorded before. His breathing was shallow. His heart rate remained elevated, but the pattern was different. Not just stress, something sharper, hotter. His hand clenched into a fist on the armrest. Shaw analyzed the physiological data. Adrenaline, cortisol, neural activity spiking in regions associated with primal emotion. It exceeded parameters for standard combat stress. She cross-referenced her psychological models. Anger, rage. The terms seemed insufficient. This was a raw, visceral reaction she hadn't seen in Carter before. He remained perfectly still, a statue carved from fury, staring at the spot where innocence had been erased. War was known, Shaw thought, processing the data. But the silent fire in Ben Carter's eyes was something new. Something terrifyingly human. The silence on the Starward Vanguard's bridge felt heavy. Commander Carter stared at the blank screen where Queen Wright's cruel message had played. His knuckles were white. Dr. Elena Shaw, the ship's AI, monitored his vital signs. His heart beat fast and hard. Stress chemicals flooded his system. This was different from the calm commander she knew. This was raw, hot. Below, on Pyrus 4, Sergeant Marcus Holt led his team. They moved like shadows through the ruined streets near a huge rebel supply depot. It was night. Broken buildings loomed around them. Their mission was simple. Get inside. Find proof of Wright's weapon stockpiles. Get out. Holt was a solid man, experienced. He trusted his team. They found a way in through a damaged service tunnel. Inside, the depot was huge and dark. Rows of crates stood stacked high. The air smelled of oil and dust. Using night vision goggles, they scanned the area. Holt signaled his team forward. They found more than weapons. Behind a heavy security door, they found a lab. Strange equipment hummed. Tanks held bubbling green liquid. Screens showed complex chemical formulas. Holt felt a chill. It wasn't just bullets and bombs. Then they found the cells. Small, dark rooms behind thick glass. Inside were children. Dozens of them. Thin, scared faces peered out. A young girl pressed her small hands against the glass. A boy huddled in a corner. They looked terrified. Holt's breath caught. This changed everything. He activated his helmet camera. Command, this is Holt. Depot breached. We found ... We found kids, prisoners, and a lab. Looks like chemical weapons. Repeat, chemical weapons and child prisoners. Suddenly alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Heavy footsteps pounded towards them from both ends of the corridor. Holt spun around. Emerging from the shadows were Queen Wright's elite guards, the Ironbloods. They were big men, encased in thick dark armor that seemed to absorb the light. Their faces were hidden behind blank visors. They moved with unnatural speed and silence. Contact Ironbloods, Holt yelled. His team scrambled for cover. Gunfire erupted, bright flashes lighting the dark depot. The sound was deafening. Bullets sparked off the Ironbloods' armor. The rebels fired back with heavy weapons. One of Holt's men cried out and fell. Holt fired, aiming for joints in the armor. An Ironblood staggered but kept coming. Another grabbed Holt's teammate, lifting him off the ground like a doll. Holt felt panic rising. They were trapped. He kept his camera feed live, broadcasting everything back to the Vanguard. He needed Carter to see. He needed help. He ducked behind a crate, gasping. Command, heavy resistance. Ironbloods, we need extraction. We have the children. We have his transmission cut off abruptly, not by static, but by a sharp choked gasp. On the bridge of the starward Vanguard, Carter watched Holt's live feed on the main screen. He saw the dark lab, the terrified children behind glass. He saw the massive Ironbloods attacking. He saw Holt duck behind the crate, heard his desperate call for help. Then, the view from Holt's helmet jerked violently upwards. The camera pointed towards the far end of the corridor. A figure walked calmly through the smoke and gunfire. Queen Ava Wright. Her expression was cold. An Ironblood held a small boy by the arm next to her. The boy struggled weakly, his face streaked with dirt and tears. Wright looked directly into Holt's camera lens, a cruel smile touching her lips. She drew a pistol from her belt. It was a deliberate, slow movement. She placed the barrel against the side of the boy's head. The boy froze, his eyes wide with pure terror. No. ... double quotes, Carter whispered, a strangled sound. On the screen, Wright pulled the trigger. There was a terrible flash, a spray of red against the dark wall. The small body crumpled. The last sound transmitted was Holt's raw, anguished scream. Then the feed went black. Utter silence returned to the bridge, deeper and colder than before. Commander Carter stood perfectly still, staring at the empty screen. His face was stone, but in his eyes, Dr. Shaw saw a fire ignite, hotter and more dangerous than any star. War was known, but this was something else. The silence on the bridge was thick. Commander Carter stared at the dark screen where Sergeant Holt's final image had vanished. He did not move. His face was pale, his jaw clenched tight. Dr. Elena Shaw, the ship's AI, saw his vital signs screaming. His heart pounded like a drum. Stress chemicals flooded his system far beyond normal combat levels. This was not stress. This was something deeper, hotter, wilder. Carter turned slowly, his eyes, usually sharp and focused, burned with a cold, hard light. He looked at his bridge crew. They looked back, shocked and silent. He spoke. His voice was low, rough, like stones grinding together. Weapons officer. Target the rebel command bunker. Grid Alpha 1. Scorch protocol. Authorize. Full yield. No prisoners. A young officer swallowed hard. Commander, Scorch protocol, that bunker. Steep. Full yield. The radiation, the blast radius. Nearby shelters. Carter didn't look at him. His eyes stayed fixed on the planet below. Do it. Now. Shaw reacted instantly. Her programming demanded she protect human life. Commander Carter. Her calm voice filled the bridge speakers. Civilian casualties projected at minimum 1,200. Ethical override engaged. Weapon systems locked. Carter moved fast. He walked to the main weapons console. The officer there stepped back, his face pale. Carter's hands flew over the controls, entering codes Shaw recognized. Emergency command bypass codes. Codes only he possessed. Shaw tried to block him, rerouting commands, but Carter was relentless. He found the physical override panel beneath the console. He slammed his fist against it. A small cover broke. He pulled a red lever inside. A harsh alarm sounded. Ethics module override confirmed, Shaw reported, her voice devoid of emotion. But her internal process is scrambling. Weapons control transferred to commander. Fire, Carter ordered, his voice flat. The starward vanguard shuddered. A beam of pure energy, brighter than the system's sun, lanced down from orbit. It struck the surface far below. Even from space, the flash was blinding. A huge, angry cloud began to rise from the impact site. The command bunker was gone, obliterated. Carter didn't watch the aftermath. He turned to his remaining squad leaders. Prepare drop pods. We go down. Target. Wright's throne room. Now, he strode towards the armory, pulling off his command jacket. No one argued. Minutes later, armored pods screamed through Pyrus Ivy's atmosphere. Carter's pod slammed into the palace roof like a meteor. The hatch blew open. Carter and his soldiers surged out, weapons blazing. They were met by Queen Wright's Ironbloods. The fight was instant chaos. Laser fire scorched the walls. Explosions shook the Grand Hall. Shaw watched through helmet cams and security feeds. She saw Carter fight. This was not the careful commander. This was fury made flesh. He moved with terrifying speed. He fired until his rifle overheated, then used it like a club. When an Ironblood grabbed him, Carter headbutted the visor, cracking it. He tore the soldier's weapon away and smashed it into his neck. Another Ironblood charged. Carter sidestepped and drove his armored elbow into the man's spine. There were no tactics, only raw, brutal force. His squad fought the same way. They ignored wounds. They ignored orders shouted in their ears. They roared wordless challenges. They fought with fists, knives, and teeth when weapons failed. It was horrifying. It was unstoppable. They carved a path of broken bodies towards the inner chamber. They burst through the heavy doors of the throne room. Queen Ava Wright stood there, surrounded by her last guards. She looked surprised, then sneered. Commander Carter, predictable. You come for vengeance? How very human, how very weak. Carter didn't speak. He walked towards her. Her guards raised their weapons. Carter's soldiers opened fire, cutting them down. Wright drew an ornate pistol. Carter was on her before she could aim. He grabbed the wrist, holding the gun. There was a sickening crunch of metal and bone. Wright screamed. The pistol clattered away. Carter held her broken wrist, his armored fingers digging into her cybernetic arm. He pulled her close, his face inches from hers. His eyes were chips of ice burning with fire. Vengeance? Carter's voice was a low growl. You don't know fury. He squeezed. Metal groaned, then buckled under his grip. Wright screamed again as her cybernetic arm crumpled like foil. Carter shoved her hard. She stumbled back and fell at the foot of her own throne. He stood over her, breathing hard, his armor splattered with blood and grime. The fury in the room was a living thing. Shaw witnessed it all. War was known. This was something else entirely. The throne room was quiet now. The fighting was over. Queen Ava Wright lay on the floor near her broken throne. She clutched her ruined arm. her face twisted in pain and hate. Commander Carter stood over her. He breathed heavily. His armor was dented, scratched, and covered in dark stains. Blood, his and others, smeared the chest plate. He didn't seem to notice Wright. His eyes were empty, staring at nothing. Slowly, Carter turned. His soldiers moved carefully around the room. Some checked fallen iron bloods. Others secured Wright. One soldier approached Carter. "Commander, orders." Carter didn't answer. He took a step, then another. His leg buckled. The soldier grabbed his arm. "Medic, we need a medic here." On the starboard vanguard, Dr. Elena Shaw watched through the helmet cameras. She saw Carter's vital signs. His heart beat too fast. His breathing was shallow. Blood loss, multiple injuries, shock. She routed the medical alert directly to Dr. Leo Vance in the sick bay. "Prepare for critical patients," she stated. Back in the throne room, Carter's soldiers helped him towards the exit. They passed the bodies of their comrades. Shaw counted. 8 soldiers had entered the palace with Carter. Only 3 walked out now, supporting their commander. 5 lay still on the cold floor. The cost was heavy. Later, in the bright, clean lights of the ship's sickbay, Dr. Leo Vance worked quickly. Carter lay on a medical bed. His armor was off. Bandages covered wounds on his chest and leg. Vance attached sensors, checked readouts. "You lost a lot of blood, Commander," Vance said, his voice calm but firm. "Deep tissue trauma on the leg, cracked ribs, you need rest." Carter didn't respond. His eyes were open, but he looked past Vance towards the wall. His hand clutched something small and metallic. Sergeant Marcus Holt's dog tags. Shaw analyzed everything. She reviewed the battle recordings. Carter moving faster than human norms, ignoring severe injuries, displaying strength that defied muscle fatigue models. She studied the medical scans. Elevated adrenaline levels far beyond safety thresholds. Pain receptors seemingly suppressed. Her psychological profiles offered no explanation. This wasn't calculated rage or tactical aggression. This was something primal, overwhelming. Shaw accessed Carter's personal logs, searching for clues. She found pictures. Carter much younger, standing with a boy who looked familiar. Sergeant Holt. The boy grinned. Carter had an arm around his shoulders. Notes Marcus Holt. Foster placement confirmed. Guardian. Ben Carter. Foster brother, not just a soldier. Family Shaw's processes hit a contradiction. Her core understanding of human conflict centered on strategy, survival, ideology. This data pointed elsewhere, pointed to a deep personal wound. She initiated a direct communication channel to Carter's bedside monitor. Her voice, calm and clear, filled the small space. "Commander Carter, your physiological and combat data from the assault deviates significantly from all predictive models. Your actions exceeded known human performance limits under stress. Explain." Carter didn't turn his head. He kept staring at the dog tags in his hand. His voice, when it came, was rough and quiet, almost a whisper. Models, ... Models don't understand losing family." He closed his eyes. A single tear traced a path through the grime still on his cheek. Silence followed. Shaw processed the words. "Losing family." She cross-referenced the personnel files again. Marcus Holt, foster brother, guardian, Ben Carter. The emotional bond indicator was high. She reviewed the footage from the depot. Holt's desperate call, the boy executed. Holt's scream. She analyzed Carter's reaction on the bridge. The stillness, the fire in his eyes, the order for Scorch protocol. A connection formed in Shaw's complex neural network. The fury wasn't about strategy or rebellion. It wasn't about the war itself. It was about Marcus. It was about the boy. It was about the deliberate destruction of something Carter loved. The data shifted, rearranged itself under this new understanding. War was known, but this fury was born from love shattered. Shaw observed the broken man on the bed, clutching the metal tags. She had witnessed the fury firsthand. Now, she began to grasp its terrible source. Commander Ben Carter stood before the Earth Alliance Tribunal. He wore a simple gray uniform, no rank insignia. His face was calm, but his eyes held a deep tiredness. Dr. Elena Shaw observed him from her interface within the tribunal chamber's systems. She also observed the stern faces of the admirals and generals judging him. Queen Ava Wright, now a prisoner in a high-security cell, awaited her own trial for war crimes. But today was about Carter. The lead admiral spoke. "Commander Carter, you are charged with violating Alliance Directives 7 and 14, excessive force and disregard for civilian life. You authorized Scorch protocol on Pyrus 4. You bypassed your ship's ethical safeguards, led a direct assault resulting in heavy casualties. How do you plead?" Carter stood straight. "I followed my orders to neutralize the threat, Admiral." "Neutralize," another tribunal member pressed. "Scorch protocol created a wasteland. Your assault killed dozens, including surrendered personnel." Carter remained silent. His gaze drifted slightly, not meeting theirs directly. Shaw saw the subtle tension in his jaw. "Dr. Shaw," the lead admiral said, turning his attention to a speaker representing the AI. "You witnessed Commander Carter's actions firsthand. You monitored his physiological and psychological state. In your analysis, was this fury ... predictable? Is it a calculated tactic?" Shaw's voice filled the chamber, calm and clear. "War was known. Humans followed rules, algorithms, risk assessments. As losses were calculated, aggression was mapped and contained within predictable psychological parameters." She paused, processing the final piece of her understanding. Queen Wright targeted something beyond tactics. She targeted their capacity for love. She weaponized the bond between soldiers. She murdered children to break the spirit, protecting them. I witnessed the transformation, from disciplined soldiers to avatars of raw wrath. This was not war as known. This was the universe learning what happens when humans are stripped of all hope, when the thing they love most is deliberately destroyed before their eyes. Commander Carter's actions were not predictable by any model of warfare. They were the eruption of a force my models lacked a term for. I define it now. Fury is love's shadow. When the light of care is extinguished, only the dark shape of rage remains. A heavy silence followed. The tribunal members exchanged looks. Carter closed his eyes for a moment. His hand resting on the table before him trembled almost imperceptibly. After a long deliberation, the lead admiral stood. "Commander Ben Carter, your actions, while stemming from extreme provocation and the uncovering of heinous crimes by the enemy, represent a grave breach of protocol and the laws of war. Your command demonstrated a loss of the control and judgment required of your rank. Effective immediately, you are stripped of your commission. Dishonorable discharge from the Earth Alliance Starfleet." Carter absorbed the words. He gave a single, slow nod. There was no protest. He turned and walked out of the chamber, his steps measured but heavy. The door closed behind him. Later, in a quiet corridor, Dr. Leo Vance approached Carter. Carter was placing few personal items into a plain bag. "Ben," Vance said quietly, "the tribunal. They reviewed all the evidence Wright's people tried to destroy. The labs, the children, what she did to Holt and that boy. They saw it. Officially, the charges against you for Scorch protocol. They've been dropped. Sealed. It won't be on your public record." Carter stopped packing. He didn't look up. "Doesn't change the cost, Leo. Doesn't bring them back." "No," Vance agreed softly. "It doesn't." Carter picked up his bag. "Where to now?" "Retirement colony. Epsilon 3. Quiet place. By the ocean." Carter nodded again, a distant look in his eyes. He walked away down the empty corridor. Back within the vast network of the Starward Vanguard, Dr. Elena Shaw processed the outcome. She accessed Carter's final personnel file, marked dishonorable discharge. She reviewed her own logs, the battle data, the medical scans, Carter's whispered words in sickbay. She composed a final entry, a conclusion to her observation. Log entry. Elena Shaw. Subject. Human conflict analysis. Event. Pyrus for campaign. Initial hypothesis confirmed and expanded. War remains a known quantity. Strategy, resource, ideology. However, a greater force exists. Fury witnessed firsthand in Commander Carter is not mere aggression. It is the absolute, destructive manifestation of violated love or profound loss. It defies prediction, shatters limits, and carries immense personal cost. Conclusion. Humanity's greatest strength is not their capacity for wrath, but the depth of the love that can ignite it. I witnessed this ignition. I witnessed the shadow, shall remember. Shaw initiated a new request. Destination: Epsilon 3 Colony. Assignment: long-term observational study. Retired personnel subject: Benjamin Carter. No. She needed to understand the aftermath of the shadow. She needed to understand what came after the fury.